Moody's downgrades the Bahamas' rating but says the economic outlook is stable, an improvement from negative.
The rating done by Moody's Investor Service used several key drivers for the downgrade. Continued deterioration of the government's balance sheet with debt and interest burdens that now exceed those of most Baa rated peers.
In addition to that, subdued economic growth contributed to the downgrade, which has been an important factor in the weakening of government's balance sheets.
Well, Clint Watson is joining us live in studio with all the details. Clint, tell us what this all means.
No surprise here, Altavi's Kendino. What we can tell you is Moody's is attributing the downgrade to the weakening of the government's fiscal strength as reflected by the significant increase in sovereign debt and interest burdens.
The GDP ratio has increased from 31.7% in 2007 to 59% in 2013, and Moody's expects it to peak in 2015. At this level, it is almost 20 percent points above the median for Baa-rated sovereigns, 39.5% in 2013. Meantime, as the debt stock increased, the interest burden on government debt has risen during the same time period. Interest payments now represent over 14% of government revenues compared to 9.3% in 2007. This deterioration lowering the ability of government to confront any potential shocks. The second key driver is a weak economic recovery. Following the 2008 recession, annual growth averaged just 1.1% in the 4 years through 2013. This underperformance negatively impacted government revenues, leading to high current and capital expenditures by the government to support the economy. As a consequence, the fiscal deficit widened to 6.3% of GDP in fiscal 2012-2013, while Moody's estimates that the deficit narrowed to 5.4% in fiscal 2013-2014. This shortfall is still more than double the median for similarly rated peers. Now, the stable outlook reflects Moody's expectation that the medium-term fiscal consolidation plan will contain the government's debt burden in fiscal 2015 and afterwards lead to a gradual reduction in the debt-to-GDP ratio. The rating outlook also anticipates that real GDP growth will strengthen somewhat in 2015, owing a large part to the ongoing recovery and economic growth in the U.S., closely correlated with tourist arrivals in the Bahamas. Key elements of the fiscal stabilization plan include expenditure controls that seek to increase the efficiency of public spending. In addition, government intends to introduce a 7.5% value-added tax in 2015. Nonetheless, even with an effective implementation of fiscal reforms, the Bahamas' debt and interest burdens will remain at levels significantly weaker than most Baa rating peers over the next 2 years at least, and over the medium term as well.
Now, the government is responding to this latest development. In a statement, they stress that the credit rating remains at investment grade. That's a good thing. Government says planned fiscal reforms will hopefully reduce the deficit and support a gradual reduction in the government's debt burden over the coming years. Now, the government is of the view the recent downgrade underscores the need for these reforms to be implemented. Once that happens, the Bahamian economy should strengthen. And I can tell you, Altaviz, that's an interesting factor here because we know that means value-added tax is a much-needed resource coming into play in order to help make this happen. Reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Clint Watson. Back to you, Altaviz.
Thank you so much. Great reporting today, Clint.